All right, guys, let's welcome another team from Entertainment Partners, Jay Vaughn and Gillian Diamond. Jay is a senior VP of engineering, and Gillian is a talent acquisition manager. Thank you. And that's my favorite part, so let's ask uncomfortable questions about the interview process. Can you come a little closer?
They want you in the frame.
All right, yeah.
I know, it's okay.
So, the first question, obviously, what are you looking in for candidate? And since Gillian representing like the first pass, you're not hearing, right? Okay. Okay. So since Gillian representing the first pass, and let's ask this question to you, Gillian. What are you looking in for candidate?
So just to explain what I do, and thank you everyone for coming. I'm a manager of talent acquisition, and I handle all the hiring for Entertainment Partners. My team is here. We've all been walking around saying hello. So we're always looking for good talent. So to answer that question, what are you looking for in a candidate? From a talent acquisition HR perspective, we're always looking for people who are a good fit culturally, are a good fit as far as communication, collaboration, working well with teams, as well as able to be adaptable. The technology side of things, I'll let Jay answer those questions. But initially, when we're looking at your resume, we are going to look for keywords as far as the position. Like, so if it's a quality engineer, we're going to look for whatever tool you use, whether it be Nexial or Selenium or Jira. We're going to look for those keywords on your resume. But when you come in for the interview, we're going to look for the behavioral side of things.
All right. Well, so let's pretend the candidate passing Gillian, and then it goes to Jay. So what are you looking for?
So, a couple things. Jillian touched upon adaptability, right? The biggest thing is, can you learn quick and can you ingest as fast as we can throw it at you? I think you saw Nexial this evening. I think you learned that we're pretty focused on automation. We're trying to move away from manual testing as much as possible. So if you listen to terms that Jillian used and others have used that you've talked to with EP is, we're not about quality assurance anymore. We're about quality engineers. We want people that are problem solvers. We want people that are adaptable to learning our culture. At the same time, be willing and open to learn about things that we do differently. No shameless plug on EP here. I'm not going to tell you what I do other than the game plan here is we're building an engineering culture, so we want people that can fit into that culture. I have a lot of my quality team here this evening. You're more welcome to talk to them. But that's really what we're looking for. When I look at a resume, it's what have you done, what do you want to do, and how can I help you do it better, and how can I help you grow? Those are the big attributes that we look for when we start to determine if you're a potential candidate or not at EP.
All right, thank you. Do you guys have any favorite questions?
The behavioralist will.
Yes. Hello. Okay, so as far as favorite interview questions that we like to ask, my team does a good job of asking behavioral questions. So we tend to do the situational questions, like tell us about a time where you had to solve a problem and you had to give a specific example. And that allows us to kind of watch you answer the question. So always be aware of your behaviors as you answer those questions, because those are not just paying attention to the answer, we're watching you in a good way. So that's the type of questions we like to ask.
Right, Jay?
So I like to have a little fun with everybody when we do interview questions. I'll ask you things like, what's branch testing? Kind of what's the difference between that and different types of testing methodology that you like and don't like? At the same time, I try to ask questions that you're familiar with within your own resume as a way to make you feel comfortable in the conversation, but I will throw you curveballs as a way just to see how well you adjusted the thinking of the conversation. When you get into an interview with me, you've passed behavioral, you've passed probably the QA manager in our organization or our senior QA manager. Sometimes the director of QA's already interviewed you, and I'm more or less trying to gauge if I think that your adaptability and your behavior and your culture are those things that we're kind of attributes we're looking to see from candidates and the opportunity to grow with us.
Can I ask here QA managers, what's your favorite questions from Untitled Partners?
It's going to be Jira. It's going to be Selenium. Where's Andrew? Adil will answer it.
Adil, come over.
No longer works for us, but he was my QA manager, senior QA manager for a long time. Director of QA.
Yeah. The question I like to ask is kind of open it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can talk on that.
Just straight.
Can you hear me now? No.
He turned it off.
I don't know why.
There you go, Adil.
Broke it already, right?
Okay,
Broke
Stephen.
Test it.
I'll ask you a bunch of CI/SAM questions. You
No,
keep it
now
up.
it works.
Okay, so question I like to ask is open-ended. Like, how would you test like a common object in the room? Just very open-ended like that, just to see how people would react.
All right, I like it. I like it. That's
Yeah.
all right. What are red flags for you?
It's a good question. Red flags. So red flags as far as when you're answering a question, if you can't directly answer the question and you give the runaround, that's a big red flag. That means you might not have the truth. And if you can't look me in the eye when you're answering a question, that's a big red flag as well. So I want to highlight your behavior is very important in the interview. It's not just your answers.
So probably the biggest red flag for me is when you start to ask me questions back about the question I've asked you most of the time. It tells me you're deflecting a little bit, and then you'll find if you do interview with me, I'll keep probing a little bit to see if you're deflecting on purpose or you're trying to figure out what the question is. And sometimes it's best to be honest and say, let's reframe, let's talk about what the question is a little bit deeper, because at times you start to get into a conversation, and I try to make these conversations more about you than just me or what I'm looking for, because I find that the red flags kind of just naturally prop themselves up when we just start talking about how comfortable you are and how you feel about things.
Awesome. How about resume tips? Like, what are you looking for in the resume? Obviously, you, Gil, are looking for tons of resume every day, right? So, what the resume makes things them out, right?
So as far as resume tips, when you're applying for a specific job, I mean, I know you guys are all very niche specific with quality. So ensure that you have the correct skills that you guys have. I know it's all pretty similar, but if you're applying for a job that has Nexial and you've used Nexial, I'm making this up, make sure it's on your resume. So make sure you're looking at the job description before you apply and put the skills that you have that you've actually used on the resume. Also, it's great to show any, I'm trying to think, any other projects if you don't have the experience that they're exactly looking for that you've worked on as well. So any side projects are good to see as well in addition to the work that you've had. And a good description of what you've been doing, not just bullets, is good as well.
All right.
Okay. So first thing is be concise. I cannot tell you how many times I get 5-page resumes of stories, and that's great, but that's not really who you are. So I really prefer the resumes that are very concise and tell a story in a meaningful way about what you've done and what you've learned. At the same time, what things are you looking to learn going forward? Because I am looking for the diamond in the rough when possible. I'm always not looking for, I may be hiring for a senior, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to turn a junior away or an associate level here when I think there's an opportunity to find someone that can grow and cultivate a little bit and somebody that can yield value to us that we can also yield value back to. And so I urge you guys to think about that, because all too often or not, resumes come back as dissertations of what you've been doing, not really of who you are and what you really want to do. And if people are not seeing who you are and what you can yield to a company, then they're not looking for the right candidate. And that's one of the things that HR has done well with us, our talent acquisition partner. We really talk about those opportunities on how we can grow a person. And so I try to find those things and cultivate them within the conversation when we're starting to figure it out. But don't think that you have to write a 10-page resume to someone to get hired. It really is meaningful when you're very clear and concise about what you've done and what you're willing to do and what you want to learn, because it helps us understand how we can better yield value together in building a program that makes sense for you.
Is there any recommendation about the size, the length of the resume?
I'll handle this, Jillian. There's no recommendation, but let's face it, if you're job jumping every 3 months or 6 months, that doesn't look good either. I'd like to see a little stability, but it's not like I'm going to look away from someone who's been job jumping like every year to improve their career. It just tells me they're innovative and they're motivated. I don't look away from that either, but I am thinking, great, you're here, how am I going to make sure you stay here? Because one of the things that an employer does is invest in your career path. I don't know if you guys are at places that do that, but typically Entertainment Partners very much is about investing in you as a person. And we want to make sure if we invest in you that we're making sure that we're growing together. And so, if you're job jumping every year or year and a half, that doesn't bother me as much as those 6-month job jumps. Mainly because it tells me that either you're growing too fast for that job and maybe this may not be the right career, I'll be honest with you guys, or it may be an opportunity where we have to talk about where do you want to be in your career, because that's what's most important to me, is where do you want to be in your career and how can we all help each other get there at the end of the day.
All right, I have 5th question. Are you guys hiring?
No. So we are hiring for certain roles, but unfortunately in our quality department, we are not hiring right now. We may be changing that. We may be hiring potential roles maybe later in the year, well, next year at this point because it's Q4. But at this moment in time, we are hiring development roles in Java and in .NET. And C, well, yeah, how many of you guys actually know C and C++? Stephen, do not raise your hand. But we do in Hosh, but we do, yeah, those are the guys that work here. But we are hiring for C and C++ engineers because Entertainment Partners does have, as much as I hate to say it, Fortran and C and C++ still running here, but we are hiring in those fields right now for development. But that's not to say in 8 months from now or 6 months from now that I won't be looking for a new set of quality engineers as we start to grow. Yes.
So check out ep.com/careers if you just want to take a look at our website and the jobs that we currently have. But if anybody's interested in just sending me the resume, gdiamond@ep.com. Gillian.
Okay.
Or just approach,
Or say
right?
hello.
And so the last thing is, I hope you guys enjoyed Nexial. It's something we're proud of. We have a couple people here. Mike's been the creator of it with Jung, who used to work here as well, and Adil, who used to work here as well, as they've moved on to other places. But we're very proud of that open source. There's some stickers up here. We encourage you guys to take it and play with it. It's something we're proud of. It's not like I'm pushing you to use it at your own shops, but it's something that we love to use as we're moving away from manual testing to automation engineering. And like I said earlier, we're not about quality assurance anymore. I know that's a term people still use, but we're about quality engineers. So when you come to apply at EP, we're looking for engineers. We want engineering mindsets, we want problem solvers, we want people engaged, and we want people to grow.
All right, do we have any questions from audience? There we go. I'm coming.
So Ali can ask a question. Is not going
All
to
right,
go
any-
well for my director
any
of
questions?
QA, my senior director.
One. Okay, here we go.
Great.
What are some resume red flags that make you go, I'm not even going to read the rest of this resume?
Sorry, I'll take it. So the question was resume red flags, right? What's the first thing that automatically disqualifies you? So if you make it past HR, or talent acquisition, I'm working on the name, sorry. One of the things that I ask them to look for is when you talk about things in very specific terms sometimes, and that at the same time you're jumping a lot of jobs, meaning that you're going from QA at one facility to QA at another company to another QA company, and you're not really growing your skill set. That tells me that there's something going on. Either you're not engaged or you're bored with your job and you're just moving to move. And so it's not necessarily a complete red flag, but it's one where it doesn't really rank you at the top of the opportunity list of someone we would run and engage with.
Anybody else? Oh, here we go.
I have to listen.
Could you elaborate a little bit more as far as when you say quality engineer versus quality assurance?
Sure. So when we talk about quality engineers versus quality assurance, it's a term that my directors and senior directors and VP of quality kind of helped me build, and they grew that within their own organization, and I completely bought into it. And when I think about quality assurances, I think you're trying to ensure or trust that quality is being achieved. And when I think about quality engineers, you're really part of the software team at that point, and there's no difference between a software and quality engineer other than the role you play on a team. So I think of you as an engineer that's solving the problem and adding the value of making the problem better instead of just telling us that there's an issue. And now I know that's a little tough term for people to kind of grasp, but sometimes quality assurance is about bug tracking for some places. Here it's about engineering a quality product and engineering a quality process, about solving it the right way. Is that helpful? Okay.
One more question.
Yeah, it's fine. I ran out of beer, but that's okay.
Hello. Kind of touching on that point between quality assurance and quality engineering, what do you think would be some of the skill sets that would make you transition from quality assurance to, get that elusive title, engineering?
So I'll give you the funny answer to that. If you work at EP, you're automatically a quality engineer. But because that's how we feel about our quality team. We feel our quality team is part of the engineering process and part of solving problems. Typically, a quality assurance is about, to us, is sometimes finding the bugs and just noting them. A quality engineer here is not about finding the bugs. It's about finding it, solving it, and working with engineers to properly resolve it beyond just noting it. That's a little different than other places because at the same time, there's no difference between quality and software within the engineering structure. You're all part of the same team. You're all part of the same example of what you need to do together to deliver value for us, because we run a very agile process here. Now, I don't have agile everywhere, just to be clear in case you talk to other EP people. It's growing, but we're primarily an agile shop. So when we talk about team, we talk about that holistic team, all for one and one for all. And to do that right, they need to be engineers, and they need to be focused on problems that they're solving together, not problems that they're recommending or that they found after the fact. It's about that proactive approach.
So that definitely means knowing how to program, right?
Does not mean you have to know how to program. Just means you have to know how to talk about the problem, how the problem needs to be solved, and what's the best solution for the client or for the project you're solving for. I'm not asking you to write code as a quality engineer. By all means, I'm not asking you to go into the C code or the JavaScript or the Java, or we have everything here but Ruby on Rails. If you guys work here, you hear my joke all the time. We've been here for 35 years. We have every code language but Ruby on Rails. I was able to keep that out. But I'm not asking you to develop in that language. I'm just asking you to be proactive and engaging as an engineer in problem solving about how you do that, how you fix that problem.
Thank you.
Good.
Last question. Okay. No last question. All right, let's give them a hand. I think that was very interesting. Really.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.